Well, hey there. How you doing today? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me. Well, I want to talk about the exciting subjects of masks, and math and science and the precautionary principle. Very important stuff. You remember my previous video a week or two ago, it was about, has reality ever been normal, and are we missing a big aspect of reality by trying to fit everything into a normal distribution like they teach us in statistics classes, like I taught as a statistics teacher and a long time ago, and throwing out the outliers. And this has to do with what we're going to talk about right now. There's a lot of controversy over whether masks are really effective or not in preventing the spread of infectious diseases, coronavirus, and others. And I even have friends write to me, they say, there's no evidence for masks. I have a number of friends and people I know that say, I'm not going to wear a mask, all this. Listen, here's the thing about why masks should be worn. It has to do with what's called the precautionary principle. And the precautionary principle is, if you have something that might cause some harm, and the costs of preventing that are low, it makes a lot of sense to take the precaution. In other words, you don't need to have settled science in order to take some action to protect yourself from something, or to take action in a positive direction that you think might create some benefits. Because in this case, the costs of wearing a mask, this costs about, I think, $10 that I got at a health food store. And it's pretty nice too. It's tie-dyed and everything. The costs of wearing it are, for the most part, unless you have a respiratory illness, very small. And the benefits, should it work, are very large, which it prevent you from having to spend some time in a hospital, which is certainly something that I don't want to do. I know people that have spent a couple weeks, people I know personally have spent a couple of weeks in hospitals on oxygen, not ventilators, but on oxygen, from contracting the coronavirus. A person who didn't wear a mask, by the way. And I know of a person related to a person I've worked with who died from coronavirus a couple months ago. And so the cost of contracting this can be very large, as you know. You might know people who've been affected by this. Of course, you hear people saying, well, I had it and it wasn't so bad and all this. But it can affect you in very adverse ways. Even younger people. Now, the evidence about masks is that they can be effective. They can be effective because, yes, they don't keep out the microfine virus particles. You know, the microfine virus particles are going to get through a mask like this, okay? Because it's made of cloth. But it's going to keep you from spreading droplets to other people when you cough or you sneeze. And it's going to prevent some of those droplets ending up in your respiratory system when they cough in your direction. The videos and analysis I've seen from the science articles that I've looked at show that when someone sneezes, the droplets can go as far as about 20 feet away. And so that's just one area where the mask can be effective. Now, again, this isn't completely settled science because this sort of phenomena is still something that it's too new for us to know exactly the percentage effectiveness of masks. But there's no doubt in my mind that there is some effectiveness to it. And since the cost is so small of wearing the mask for the most part, I mean, I think I kind of look good in my mask too. You know, the colors and everything matches my complexion. And the benefits are so potentially huge to other people, to keep me from spreading it to other people and possibly getting it from them, that there's no question that I should be wearing it. Again, the costs are very large compared to, the costs are very small compared to the benefits. And this has to do with another topic that I frequently talk about, mostly on Twitter, which is water fluoridation. This is a battle, as we're making this video right now, it's going on in Spokane, Washington, a city that's been free of fluoride for decades. I don't know if they've ever fluoridated. And there are some people saying because of coronavirus, I don't know what the two have to do with each other, but we have to fluoridate the water. Now, There are many studies in the past decade or two that show that there are neurotoxic effects of fluoridated water, especially on children and unborn infants. And is it completely settled science? No, these studies come from different countries. They come from Canada, they come from Spain. There's different types of people in the sample groups that they're looking at. There's variations in the water and in nutrition of these people, no doubt about it. But still, having 60, 70, 80 peer-reviewed studies, published papers that say, hey, when you ingest fluoride, it lowers your IQ, it's neurotoxic. Don't you think the precautionary principle would say, hey, we should slow down before we put fluoride in the water? After all, yes, it may prevent 1 or 2 cavities over your lifetime. Maybe that's true. But is it worth the cost of lowering your IQ, of putting something that's toxic because it crosses the blood-brain barrier, putting something that's toxic in your brain? We've never had this discussion. So publicly, no one's ever actually compared the cost versus the benefits. There can be some benefits, even if they're very small, but there can be some costs which are very large, which is you permanently lower someone's IQ for the rest of your life, their life. So again, that precautionary principle says you shouldn't be putting fluoride in the water until you're 100% sure that it's safe. And this impacts other studies, this type of idea. This is called optionality, by the way, is that the price of the option is very small, but the benefit is very large. You're probably aware of this in other contexts. In terms of the topics that we mostly talk about here on this channel, the topics that I know you like, UFOs and Bigfoot and hauntings and ghosts, balls of light, and the electromagnetic effects of all these phenomena, and crop circles on our cameras and batteries show that there's something going on. Are any of these areas, from UFOs to Bigfoot to crop circles, settled science? Hardly. But we have so much evidence, anecdotal evidence, that there's something going on. And the potential benefit of learning about these subjects, and it could completely change our view of the universe. Now, I see that as a benefit. Maybe some people don't want our view of the universe to be changed. But because the benefit is so huge, and the costs of really studying these things, at least for you and me, it's not that, it's pretty small. You could watch a video on YouTube about it. You could, read someone's article. There are plenty of people out there who study these subjects, and you can learn about it for free. Since the cost of learning about it is so small, for the average person like me, not for someone like Luis Elizondo that's going around to Congress and Senate and spending a lot of time on this. But for the average person, the cost of learning about this is small. There's a lot of programs and TV shows about it. And the potential benefits of learning about exotic vacuum objects and the quantum science behind these phenomena and why they're all interrelated in some interesting ways is so huge that it's definitely worth studying. If we say that, we're not going to wear masks until we're 100% certain that they're effective, right? Then you're also saying, I'm not going to study any of these paranormal phenomena, so-called paranormal. I mean, you and I know they're not paranormal, they're normal in this kind of quantum multiverse view. If we say we're not going to look at something till we're 100% certain, that's a recipe for disaster. When you encounter a situation where you think something may be going on, that's why you investigate and you take action on it if there's a potential danger there, because the risk of the danger greatly outweighs the slight precaution that you can take. After all, most of us wear seatbelts in cars now. The cost of wearing the seatbelt, it's a little comfortable, but the cost is pretty small compared to the benefit. Same sort of idea. We already employ this idea throughout the rest of our lives in society in general. So I think the same thing should apply to masks. It should apply to halting water fluoridation until we know there's no risks involved with doing it. And in terms of these phenomena that we study, we want to keep studying this phenomena even though the evidence is anecdotal often. The big criticism of these UFO encounters, how many times have you heard from scientists that it's anecdotal evidence? And we just don't have enough of a scientific study. And yet the anecdotes are from thousands and thousands and thousands of people who've encountered this phenomena and these entities over decades and decades and decades. And you're going to tell me we're not going to study it. It affects even our armed forces, our naval pilots, and probably the Air Force pilots too, even though they're not talking about it for some reason. You're saying we're not going to look at it, even though people get burned, they can get injured, they can have permanent health consequences on their lives for encountering these objects. We're not going to look at it until we're 100% certain that it's what it is. That's ridiculous. You don't wait till you know what it is until taking some sort of action. I mean, when you see a huge tsunami coming in on the beach, do you get off the beach before the wave crashes, or do you wait to see, well, I don't know if it's a tsunami or what, the height, or ridiculous. Now, there's anecdotal evidence for masks you should just know about, which is part of this precautionary principle. There was a Starbucks in South Korea where a woman was infected with coronavirus. She was right under the air conditioning system, so all the air spread out from her. And 20 people were infected, but none of the people that were wearing masks were infected. Anecdotal evidence, but hey, it's good enough for me that there's some benefit to doing this. And of course, obviously, the individual benefit multiplies to be a collective benefit in a much bigger way. Even if it's just a collective benefit, preventing you from spreading to other people if you have it when you sneeze or cough, that's a good reason to do it. Okay, that's enough on this topic. Hope you've enjoyed my little discussion here. And what do you think? Always interested in your point of view. Put your comments in the box below. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time. Take care for now, and bye.